Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Coaching Conversation. In this series, we're aiming to help business owners, business leaders, and fellow coaches by sharing our experience and the experience of our guests who've coached people all around the world in all of different sectors and industries that you can imagine. So, very little more to say other than do please now sit back, relax, and enjoy this edition, and look out for a special offer for our loyal audience at the end of the programme. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Coaching Conversation. And today, I'm joined by my great friend, Robert White. Robert is the Chief Executive of Brabners, a law firm with multiple offices across the north of England. And today we're going to talk about how True North, an organisation of business leaders, can build prosperity for the north of England. And Robert, welcome.
Thanks, Graham. Delighted to join you, and thanks for inviting me.
Could you perhaps give the audience a sense of your story and how you can combine a very busy role of chief executive of a large law firm with actually putting together what is effectively a band of volunteers to build a better economy for the north of England?
Sure. Well, I guess my story is that I have been chief exec of Brabners for just over 8 years. And I've led a change program that, in my language, has transitioned a law firm that happened to be a business into a purpose-led business that happens to be a law firm. However, the trick is that in doing that, we never forget that we are a law firm. And I guess that purpose element to it is really important in the context of True North, in the our purpose is to demonstrate that business can deliver positive and lasting change for our clients, our people, and the communities we serve. And really, True North is a demonstration or an attempt at a demonstration of how businesses, when they come together, can deliver that positive and lasting change for, I guess, the good of the economy as a whole, but also for the good of the communities as a whole. So True North really goes right to the heart of our purpose and is demonstrating that purpose in action.
So, as an organisation, what is True North?
So it is a network of purpose-led businesses, business leaders, and other organizations that have come together to collaborate and to co-create from the heart of the business community, data-led practical solutions that seek to unlock our true potential and really face into the generational challenge that has faced the north of England now for a long time. And yeah, so it's a recognition that business, and particularly purpose-led businesses, have a significant part to play in addressing those challenges that we all know exist.
How big is that network?
So we have grown significantly since we launched True North in September 23. We're now over 410 organizations of all shapes and sizes from multiple different sectors. In fact, in kind of preparing for today, I did count how many different sectors are represented in the network, and there are 26 of them. So it has attracted, and actually I've been blown away by the types of businesses and the engagement that it has attracted. And I guess part of the development of True North was a recognition that I think there is a cohort of businesses out there, and I always talk about privately owned, owner-managed businesses. My personal, I don't particularly like the phrase SMEs, because that suggests that these types of businesses are small, and that isn't the case. There are some huge privately owned, owner-managed businesses that are doing great stuff and have joined the network. But my sense was that, there are a cohort of businesses out there that have kind of felt unheard, not listened to, and haven't had a voice. And I guess the more traditional, and this is not knocking them, but the more traditional routes to having a voice perhaps felt a bit inaccessible to those businesses. And really, True North was designed to convene a platform for those types of businesses to engage and have a voice. And it was certainly my perspective, which I think perhaps is partly an answer to, how does this relate to Brabners and my job as chief exec of Brabners? Is that I do think, as a professional services firm that is a law firm, we are in a privileged position in that just by the nature of our business, it takes us into so many different organizations, so many different types of businesses. So, for example, when privately owned owner managed businesses are seeking investment, we can help them because we've got a network of funders that we can potentially. So we felt, as a purpose-led business that, we were privileged and perhaps even best placed to convene this platform to give those types of businesses a voice, and felt that it was our duty to do so in many respects.
You talk about voice. Is this really a lobby group? And if so, what's different with this to, say, a chamber of commerce?
Yeah, and I would say, Graham, that it is absolutely not a lobbying group in the traditional sense. However, part of its value is to create that channel. Um, One of the key principles of True North is that, the future route, or the route to productivity and prosperity, has to come through collaboration. The old historical view, for example, in the North, that, if Liverpool won, Manchester lost. If Manchester won, Leeds lost. If Leeds won, Sheffield lost, in my view, is one of those perspectives that has really held us back. So one of the key, uh, I guess, values of the True North Network is that it is all about collaboration. And therefore, that extends beyond the network into the public sector. And therefore, yes, creating a voice and influencing perhaps policymakers is part of the value, uh, alongside an openness to play our part and collaborate so that we can work together. Because it is a proven fact globally that when public bodies and the business sector collaborate, great things happen. And that has to be a route to our future success.
So, in practical terms or down to earth terms, there's a network of 400 more different sized businesses from every sector you can imagine.
Yeah.
How do they impact the economy as a other than individually? How is this collaboration going to impact the economy, and how will we know?
That's a great question, Graham. And how they impact the economy, if I perhaps deal with that first. Um, Another common value or common thread throughout True North is that this is about data-led practical solutions, maybe even grassroots action, because that's, I think, the type of language that really business in particular understands. And this sense and I always talk about it really in the context of post 2016, when really big business investment plateaued in the UK. And the mood music around that time was that the world was going to cave in. And the truth is, it hasn't. It hasn't been fantastic, but the world hasn't caved in. And that was intriguing to me and to us. In that, why is that? And we got this sense that, genuinely these privately owned, owner-managed businesses are the engine rooms of the engine room of the economy. So our data suggests that in the north of England, there are 400,000 of these types of businesses. And it's obviously a very broad definition. However, our data also suggests that these businesses are growing at a rate of 8.5% a year. So if you think about that in the context of the economy as a whole, how these businesses are impacting the economy, we can now say, well, they're having a very positive impact because they're growing by 8.5% a year. Um, so throughout the course of 2024, I guess we were asking ourselves the question, is True North going to resonate with the purpose-led business community? And I guess with now 400 plus members and the level of engagement that we're getting and are engaging with those businesses, we're pretty comfortable that that is the case. The key challenge for 2025 is, okay, well, how do we as a network demonstrate impact? And so 2025 is going to be about how do we create a sense of community within the network so that we can convene and connect those businesses. And we're already starting to see that happen. So some of the events that we've run so far, you can see these businesses are coming together, collaborating together, and doing great stuff. There's then, as we've kind of touched on, that opportunity to be the voice for those businesses in engaging with perhaps combined authorities so that we can create those partnerships. But we're also looking in 2025 for opportunities to demonstrate that when the True North Network focuses on something practically, uh, great stuff happens. And I guess to give you an example of that, so we launched our second report, Scaling Northern Ambition, in January this year, and invited Patrick Hurley, who's the MP for Southport, to speak at the event and engage with us. Because it is true to say that, after the horrific events in Southport last year, I suppose if you talk about it in a more perhaps a business context, the Southport brand has been damaged by those horrific events, which happen to happen in the worst time of the year, in the summer. And so what we're exploring with our partners is, can we pick kind of practical place-based examples of where business can come together and help drive practical solutions in those particular areas. And that's something we're challenging ourselves to do during the course of 2025 so that we can demonstrate that when business comes together, convened by True North, we can make great stuff happen.
So are there other specific ambitions? You mentioned Southport, but
Yeah.
in your mind or in the leadership of True North's mind, is there a little agenda of milestones of things that you want to tackle in 2025?
Yeah, so there's definitely that sense of now that the network has been created, how do we best facilitate and convene opportunities to flow from it? Um, how do we build that sense of community so that there is a thriving network of businesses that are helping each other, uh, connecting to unlock opportunities? That's kind of, I guess, an intangible objective, but I'm sure there will be, and there are examples that we can point to where that has happened.
It's
In terms of the,
inevitable if you put a group of businessmen in a
absolutely,
room,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they'll find a way of helping each other, won't they?
yes,
Just,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah, and
think
in
we've
terms,
created businesses doing just that.
yeah, absolutely, and there is a school of thought which I agree with in that, going forward, it's actually going to be the strength of networks working together that make, the drive economic activity and prosperity. So, our hope is that the True North network becomes one of those networks that people engage with. In terms of, I guess the membership itself, we don't have any specific objective. However, we would like and I guess this is ch us challenging ourselves. We would like to try and get the network up to north of 1,000 organisations, and certainly our trajectory at this point is heading towards that. And look, again, that's a made up number but it's really an indicator of are we achieving the objective, which is to engage and convene uh, purpose-led businesses, business leaders, and other organizations, because if they are joining, that's kind of confirming that we are actually convening and having a positive, engaging impact on the business community and the region as a whole.
We touched on engaging with politics and
Yeah.
politicians. Is is this ultimately going to be an essential tool in the toolkit for True North to be able to be effective? Or is it best that you stay well away from politics and remain entirely independent and self-propelling?
Yes. And again, I think that is a great question, Graham. And Um, I would kind of describe it in that that is a tightrope that we will inevitably, and we are navigating. In that, another fundamental principle of True North is the recognition that Northern prosperity has been held back by short-term political cycles. And we part of where it was born was that if you kind of play that argument out, business understands that it's actually about the long term, a long-term perspective, and business is one of, if not the only constant. So by definition, therefore, we have to be apolitical because this is about uh, transcending short-term political cycles. However, it's also true to say, particularly given that, in my view, there is a fantastic opportunity to grasp the momentum that is building around devolution in particular, because another thing that has held us back has been too centralized decision making. There is a fantastic opportunity as that decision making is decentralized, particularly into the combined authorities, for business to engage with those combined authorities and for the combined authorities to engage with business to unlock our true potential. And therefore, in my view, it is an inevitability that True North will and is engaging with politicians and the combined authorities. Um, and equally, as I referred to earlier, part of its value is exactly that as well. But we will never cut across that principle that we are apolitical because of the pressing need to transcend short-term political cycles.
Yeah, I can understand the political cycles. Devolution's pretty crucial not simply for True North, but for the
Yeah,
development of
yeah,
any of the regions that it touches.
yes,
Centralized decision making, specifically as it impacted the North, we know was hardwired to drive investment to the South. They
yes,
specifically had return on capital calculations that penalised the North, not
yeah,
in a discriminatory way, but simply because the maths would do that, wouldn't they?
yes,
The money follows the money in those calculations, and the money's easier to generate in the South than it was in the North. But if you don't
yeah.
invest in the North or other regions outside of the South, then you can't drive growth. And
That
so,
that that is absolutely true, Graham. And again, one of the principles of this is that it is absolutely not about pointing the finger at other parts of the country, particularly the South. It's recognizing that actually there is a fantastic opportunity for us to, yes, driven by the momentum towards devolution, driven by the fact that there's fantastic stuff happening in the North, to close that productivity and prosperity gap. For example, if you strip out London and the Southeast, um, the prosperity of the rest of the UK is poorer than the state of Mississippi, which is the poorest state in the US. Now, on the one hand, there's a question of, well, how can that be? But on the other hand, isn't that a fantastic opportunity to close the gap and unleash that, unlock that potential that there is in this instance, in the North? And the other aspect of True North is, I do think there are perhaps lazy stereotypes about what Northern business is about. Perhaps as a, follow on from, deindustrialization, for example. And, a key aspect of True North is what we call the Northern Stars, in that, again, it is proven globally that if you invest in cities, in terms of place, making places work, then productivity follows and prosperity follows. And again, there is massive untapped opportunities in northern cities. And if you do that on the basis of collaboration and building clustered specialisms that collaborate rather than compete, it's proven in Europe, in America, globally, that that is also a route to greater productivity and prosperity. And the Northern Stars aspect of True North is shining a light on the great stuff that is happening again, so that we can learn from it, businesses can understand it and learn from it, but also so that it can change the narrative around those, the lazy stereotypes that may well have characterized the North of old. And whether that's space technology, cybersecurity, medical tech, biosciences, material sciences, there are some amazing stories. I was introduced to the Northern Film Alliance recently, where the creative industry is collaborating in Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, and the Northeast, and to project the North as a fantastic place for particularly Hollywood and to invest and bring the creative film industry to the North as a fantastic place to film, to build the skills and all that type of stuff. So there are some brilliant examples of Northern stars that are doing great stuff. And I would say that, yes, largely on balance, perhaps goes unheard. And, True North is about shining a light on that, so that we can change the narrative, but also hopefully contribute to building the momentum behind those types of things.
It's an interesting perspective. I once recently was given the definition of leveling up, and I don't really want to use leveling up in the
Yes.
political sense,
Yeah.
more in
Yeah.
an economic sense. And it was simply put, it's not about investing regionally, it's about taking sectors that are less productive than other sectors and equaling their productivity.
Yes.
That if you were running a business in this context, if you had loads and loads of untapped capacity, that's the first place you'd go to make some quick wins and increase your bottom
Absolutely.
line.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
you wouldn't flog harder the things that are already very efficient. You go to the bits that could easily be made to work harder. And it
Yes.
strikes me that's where your shining of a light in the north is extremely important, because most of the political decisions that would be made may be made only in ignorance. And then when they're made in ignorance, they're not made in the context of anything other than short-term political drivers, which gets you back to your short-term political cycles issue.
It does, Graham. And again, there is it is proven. And I guess this is where it's difficult, isn't it? Because in many respects, it's easy to paint the picture about where the opportunity is and how to unlock it. Investment in cities, making places work. It's proven that investment in infrastructure, transport, housing, energy are the routes to greater productivity and prosperity. It's easy to say that building clustered specialisms as part of that framework, with public and private sector working together in tandem. All these things are really easy to say conceptually. The difficulty is in how is that then implemented successfully. And our second report that we launched in January this year called Scaling Northern Ambition, the first one was defining it. I guess the golden thread that came out of that and the really the purpose of that report was to engage with businesses, particularly our Northern Stars, and try and draw out the common themes, the golden thread that had allowed them to be successful. And where we settled on, it was clear that, skills and the availability of skills was that common thread. We work really across four pillars, which is people, skills, and the future, innovation and change, sustainable growth, and purpose and social impact. And I guess our acknowledgement was that without skills, it's difficult to innovate and change. It's difficult to deliver sustainable growth. So, if you take skills as a whole, you know, aligning the skills that the regions, the businesses need to react and respond to that easy solution conceptually. That is a hugely complex and long-term challenge. That and I guess part of True North is yes, I personally have found what we are trying to do quite daunting over time. And I guess the principle of it is, well, you know, you've got to start, and the best time to start is probably yesterday. So, all we can do is start and um, you know, do the right things that we think at the time, and hopefully by building that grassroots action, the momentum will flow. And yeah, as I say, the key drivers, devolution, hopefully more investment, moving on from the old perspective around competition rather than collaboration. it does feel like we are at a kind of particular moment in time where there is a fantastic opportunity to grasp all those things and really make the difference, which again probably leads back to your very first question, Graham, in that how does this link with my role as chief exec of Brabners? I talked about our purpose. It is also our mission to make the difference, and the operative word is the. And again, True North goes right to the heart of that in that, to make the difference, there's an argument to say we have to do this. And therefore, we're kind of discharging that responsibility to demonstrate that, this business, this purpose-led business that happens to be a law firm, is discharging its responsibility as a responsible business to convene this network consistent with its purpose and its mission to make the difference.
As the membership grows, it's already formidable. Do you need a team to administer this, or is it something that will self-propel?
Again, it's a great question and a live opportunity, I guess, Graham, in that um, it may well be that True North develops a life of its own, because ultimately it's owned by the network and the members of the network. And again, certainly from a Brabner's perspective, wouldn't that be a fantastic legacy? That we have contributed to um, addressing these opportunities. Um, so at the moment, I guess it's true to say that I am the driving force of True North because I genuinely believe that there is a significant overlap between our direction and purpose as a business and what we're trying to achieve with True North. Um, Interestingly, there's been a number of people that have approached and said, would really like to get involved, and I really think I can help drive it forward. So, yes, it's a live issue. And if I'm completely honest with you, Graham, sat here today, I don't know what the answer is to that. And I'm kind of enjoying finding out. Um, it may well be that True North does need a team that really drives it forward, and we'll figure that out as we go.
Thinking about the audience, is there a definition of North in True North?
Yes, and again, we have had people approach us from outside, I guess, the geographic definition, and it has meant that we've had to challenge ourselves around, well, how far south does north go, if that makes sense? Um, so I guess the real aspect to that is that it's kind of multi-layered, okay, and that's one of the reasons why. And you might say I would say this, wouldn't I? I love the True North kind of name of it because it has multiple connotations. In the True North it's a movement, it's an acknowledgement of where we are trying to head in terms of addressing that productivity and prosperity challenge. Because ultimately, our True North is contributing positively to greater inclusive prosperity for the North as a whole. Um, so it's a sense of direction in that sense. Yes, it is also geographic. So our definition is northwest, northeast, um, kind of Humberside and Yorkshire. I guess the traditional definition, and I think there are 62 kind of authorities within that definition. Um, but it is also about collaboration. Um, And I guess the principle is that we will collaborate with anyone who I guess we believe can contribute positively to that true north direction towards inclusive prosperity in that region. So, for example, we do have one member uh, in Bristol. We have a couple of people who naturally, you get leaders that run businesses that are based in the north, but they're not located there themselves. So I would say it's relatively fluid, but we're keen also that we don't spread ourselves too thinly, and therefore we're trying to be disciplined around that kind of geographic definition, but also to create that sense of true north being a sense of direction and purpose.
So if any members of the audience want to know more, want to become a member, but just want to chat to some members, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I guess my advice would be if you go on to our website, which is www.brabners.com, there is a True North section on there. It's really split into three parts. There is a kind of a general True North bit where there is an opportunity just by filling in a simple form that you can join the network. The second section is about spotlighting our Northern Stars. What I would say to people is if you think you are doing great stuff, please reach out because we would love to spotlight you as a Northern Star so that we can change the narrative about what great things Northern businesses are doing. And then the third leg of the website is our Data Explorer, which we've built in partnership with an organization called Open Innovations. And there's lots of data on there around those four pillars that I mentioned. And it's really there for people to use and engage. So if you just want to get a sense of what's happening in the North, then even if you just kind of engage and look at the Data Explorer, there's some really interesting stuff on there that really point to the themes that we're drawing out as part of the network. So yeah, I would recommend going onto our website or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, and yeah, be delighted to engage with anybody really.
Robert, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing what is a fascinating initiative. And everybody, that's it for today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Graham. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
So, there you have it, the latest edition of the Coaching Conversation. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful, and I hope it did what it set out to do. As promised at the beginning of the programme, here is a special offer for you, our loyal audience. If you reach out to me at gwiley@sagegreen.com and mention this podcast, we'll make available to you a coaching programme for you and or your team at a 50% discount. So where can you reach us? So it's definitely gwiley@sagegreen.com. You can also reach us at the Executive Mindset at sagegreen.com, and our website is clearly theexecutivemindset.co.uk. If you enjoyed this, do please leave us with a wonderful rating on Google. We'd really appreciate that. So nothing more for me to say now other than see you again soon.